Good evening, everybody. Welcome to May's Rogue Reads. I'm Tracy Clark, author of the Cass Rains and Detective Harriet Foster series, and a proud member of Rogue Women Writer. Tonight we have four wonderful guests: Meg Gardiner, Omar Tyree, Sam Weeb, aka Nolan Chase, and Kellye Garrett, four best-selling authors who are going to sort of introduce us to their newest releases. And I'm excited to get started. There's a little bit of a housekeeping first. For those tuning in for the first time, Rogue Women Writers is a group of 9 authors of thrillers, mystery, and suspense, whose backgrounds range from intelligence officers to cops to psychotherapists to journalists, and we are delighted that you are all here to share this time with us. This is how Rogue Reads works. For you in the Zoom room, you'll be in the gallery during the readings. Feel free to introduce yourselves by typing your name into the chat bar. For those of joining us on Facebook Live, if you have anything you'd like to ask the authors or have a question for them, please put it in the chat right there. Easy to find. We'll monitor the comments as we go along, and the authors will be reading after a brief introduction. All of the books discussed tonight should be available through your local bookstore or library, and pre-orders are always an option. Feel free to just sort of tap into that. If you choose to post about the event, please include the hashtags Rogue Reads and Rogue Women Writers so that we can sort of follow along with you. That's it, pretty simple. 4 authors tonight. I'm going to read about their fantastic books. I'm going to take them in alpha order. We're going to start with Nolan Chase, or Sam Weeb, as we all know him.
You have no idea how exciting it is for somebody with a W last name
To
to
go first.
actually be, yeah, it's
All
like my
right.
dream since high school.
Good. All right. So Sam is the author of the Dave Wakeland PI series set in Sam's hometown of Vancouver, Canada. His work has won the Crime Writers of Canada Award and the Kobo Emerging Writers Prize, and has been shortlisted for the Edgar, the Hammett, Seamus, Independent Publisher, and City of Vancouver book prizes. His new novel, A Lonesome Place for Dying, has just launched, and that's doing pretty well. Huh, Sam? How's it going?
I think it's been going good. I've been helping my mom declutter her house, so
You haven't
this
noticed?
is no, this is just such a treat, and I'm just honored to be here with Kellye and Meg and Omar, and yourself, of course.
Oh, thanks. All right, let me tell you a little bit about the book. Uh, Introduces a new character, Ethan Brand. He's not a PI this time. He's a small town sheriff. Here's a little summary of it. On Ethan Brand's first day as the town's chief of police, he finds a threat on his porch, along with a gruesome souvenir, a bloody animal heart. There are plenty of people who are upset about Ethan replacing the last chief, but when a body shows up on the railroad tracks, Ethan turns his attention to the town's first homicide in years. Blaine's population is only 5,000, but 8 million vehicles pass through its railroad crossing every year. It's the perfect site for drug smuggling, human trafficking, larceny, and murder. With no one to trust, his job already on the line, and the threats getting more reckless, Ethan Brand must find the killers and bring them to justice before anyone else winds up dead. Ooh. Okay, we asked each of our authors either give us their favorite snack and beverage or their character's favorite snack and beverage. Sam, you chose us to give you yours. Your go-to drink is coffee, naturally. But you also admit to Canadian Club and soda as being sort of an option too. Your favorite thing is Tim's potato chips. I couldn't find them in my grocery store, but they apparently have this weird combination of Sasquatch surprise. Is that one of yours? All right, it's got a combo of sea salt, vinegar, dill, and barbecue. What? All right, so anyway, I've ordered one, so I'll see how it tastes when it gets here. I'll put my review up. But
Nice.
anyway, my first question for you. Lonesome Place is your first novel under a pen name. Your first set in Washington State. The first to feature this new character, Ethan Brand. Uh, it's kind of a weird way to sort of shake it all up all at once like that. But where did the pseudonym come from? Nolan Chase. It sounds kind of spy thrillery, but what came into that?
Um, well, I really wanted to write a book set in Washington State because I've spent a lot of time there, and the border crossing there. It's just a fascinating place. I mean, it really is a beautiful little tourist town. but there's so much traffic going across the Peace Arch border, and it has this great history going back to smuggling days and prohibition, and so I really wanted to capture that in the book. Um, I'm not saying that I'm known at all, but if I am known, it's as a writer of Canadian Vancouver set private detective novels.
Mhm.
And this is just not that. So the publisher and I decided on a pen name, and I just wanted something that was very far away from, like a cute play on Sam Weeb, like Webb Samuels or whatever. So Nolan Chase sounded good to me, and I went with it.
It works. All right. All
Thank
right.
you.
Next up, we'll come right back to you. Meg, you're up. Welcome. Meg Gardiner is a #1 New York Times bestselling author of 16 novels. Impressive. Most of them really eerie, I'm just going to say. Born in Oklahoma City and raised in Santa Barbara. Meg graduated from Stanford and Stanford Law School. She practiced law in Los Angeles and taught in the writing program at the University of Chicago in Santa Barbara, and serves as a
University of California. I know you're in Chicago.
So. Oh my God. And served as the 2019 and 2020 president of Mystery Writers of America. Beyond writing, Meg is a 3-time Jeopardy champion and a citizen of the Chickasaw Nation. Impressive. Her latest novel, Shadow Heart, releases June 18th, right? And here's a glimpse of that. In a Tennessee prison, Ephraim Judah Good draws haunting portraits of women he claims he has killed. Around the country, desperate families of the missing seek answers in his eerie drawings. And on darkened back roads and New York City streets, a new killer poses duct-taped bodies at the sites of Good's murders. Two serial killers are locked in a twisted rivalry. To stop the brutal slayings, FBI profiler Caitlin Hendricks must unravel the connection between Good and the broken heart killer. Their warped competition destroys anyone in their path. Caught between a manipulative psychopath and a ruthless unsub, Caitlin has to dive into not one, but 2 dark and twisted minds. Yeah. Caitlin Hendricks' favorite snack is taco truck food. Wonderful. And her favorite beverage is Topo Chico. Fits.
To wash down the taco truck food.
Gotta have it, right? You were once quoted as saying that you write books that scare you. Those books in turn scare the rest of us. So I'm wondering what kind of perverse pleasure it gives you, knowing that you have readers double locking their doors and checking the latches on their windows before they go to bed at night. I mean, so you're writing.
It warms my twisted little heart.
I know it does. I knew it. Before I asked the question, I knew it. But explain that to me.
Well, the point of a thriller is it's supposed to thrill. It's supposed to give readers the chance to pick it up, fall into the story, or be grabbed by the throat and pulled into the story, to find characters that they love, that they hate, that they love to hate, they hate to love, that have their backs up against the wall, who's have chaos explode into their world. That the characters, especially the heroine, everyone depends on them. Nobody else is going to figure this out. They have to rise to the occasion or die trying. And I want readers to be pulled along like they're on a rocket sled, wondering what's going to happen next, where the story's going to twist and turn. I want people to stay up late, checking to make sure that their doors are locked. But I want to make sure that everybody knows that my books are not supposed to be bleak and dark and depressing. They're supposed to really give you a real ride, and I want readers to enjoy them. The characters, I hope, are lively and fascinating, and make you want to cheer them on as they're trying to solve the case. So, if I've made sure that you keep the lights on, I count that as a win.
Okay, all right. I'm just saying. Okay, we'll come back. Kellye Garrett. Hey, Kel.
Hi. I just want to notice the Edgar in the behind Meg. She has.
Yeah, I noticed it. I wasn't going to mention it, but
I will. I noticed
props.
Little dude staring over my shoulder.
Well within your right. Kellye Garrett's crime fiction novels have been featured on the Top Today Show, won numerous awards, and named to Time Magazine's 100 Best Mystery and Thrillers of All Time. Yay! After breaking into publishing with a Detective by Day lightweight mystery series, she transitioned into standalone suspense with Like a Sister. In addition, Kellye is a co-founder of Crime Writers of Color, which received the 2023 Raven Award from the MWA. Her latest novel is Missing White Woman, a twisty thriller and compulsive page-turner, according to Harlan Coben. Nice try. Good, all right. And this is Missing White Woman, which came out 30th of April. It was supposed to be a romantic getaway weekend in New York City. Brianna's new boyfriend, Ty, took care of everything: the train tickets, the dinner reservations, the rented four-story luxury row house in Jersey City with a beautiful view of the Manhattan skyline. But when Bree comes downstairs their final morning, Ty is nowhere to be found, and there's a stranger dead in the foyer. The missing woman the entire internet has become obsessed with, Janelle Beckett. Soon, both the police and an army of internet sleuths are asking questions Bree doesn't know how to answer. Desperate to find Ty and to keep her own secrets buried, Bree realizes there's only one person she can turn to: her ex-best friend, a lawyer with whom she shares a very complicated past. Very twisty. Bree's favorite snack is Muddy Buddies, which I'd never heard before, aka Puppy Chow.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a combination of Czech cereal coated in chocolate, peanut butter, and powdered sugar. You may as well just kill yourself. I mean, really.
Worth it. Worth it though.
It's worth it? Okay. Your first question. I know for a fact that you're a serious outliner. And I read somewhere that for this one, you sort of did it a little differently. You sort of worked off of a synopsis, which is sort of kind of as close to you as you probably get to being a pantser. And I just wanted to know what kind of experience that was for you and how freaked out were you doing it that way?
Tracy, you know me, I'm freaked out.
I know you, that's why I asked.
I am freaked out writing, period. So I did Allison Galen and Valerie Wilson Wesley, who are two heroes of mine, also friends, but heroes. They talk about the head. Oh my God. Headlight method, where you just like write until like where you can see. So even though I knew the big parts of this book, like I knew the big twist, I knew the backstory of Bree, I kind of just started figuring out like in bits and pieces. So yeah, this is as close to pantsing as I will ever get.
Mm-hmm. And how was the experience?
I mean, I was a year late for my book coming out, so great.
Okay. All right. Is Omar here or no? I mean,
yes, he's here.
Oh, he's here. Okay.
He needs to
Got my
unmute.
audio on. Is the audio on?
Yep. Oh, there you are.
You got the audio? I can hear you guys.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I think you win for best background though. I mean,
there you go.
Where are you? All right.
Yeah, I had to try and stay in the light, so I can't get the light is too much out here, so I had to go ahead and find one. It's just a tree behind me.
All right. Well, okay, let me introduce
I'm
you.
not Central Park. Ducks right in front of me, but yeah, the background I had to make sure I can get light because there's too many dark spots now.
Gotcha.
7 o'clock. Yeah.
All right. Omar, you're a writer, musician, entrepreneur, producer, and author of novels, nonfiction, and screenplays. Was born in Philadelphia, studied to become a pharmacist at the University of Pittsburgh before transferring to Howard University, where he received a degree in journalism and started a book publishing company, OMAR Productions, to release his earliest works of fiction. He is known for his best-selling book, For the Love of Money, and Mayor for Life, The Incredible Story of Marion Barry Jr., which he co-authored with Marion Barry. He's the winner of the 2001 NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Literature and the 2006 Phyllis Wheatley Literary Award for Body of Work in Fiction. Control releases the 21st of May, tomorrow. Good luck.
Yeah.
This is a little bit about Control. Dr. Victoria Benning knows it's unethical to discuss the therapy sessions of her clients, but the drama of their unpredictable lives tests her professional role like never before. Working around the clock, Dr. Benning observes a troubling, treacherous common denominator that plagues all 6 clients, a desperate impulse to grasp control of everything and everyone in their lives, no matter the cost. It's a struggle with which she's all too familiar. Determined to head off tragedy, she comes up with a brilliant game plan, but just as she moves into action, inexplicable events quickly turn fatal. The doctor finds her plan, her career, and her personal life all spiraling into madness and hopelessly out of control. Omar's favorite snack is a king-size Reese's peanut butter cup. There you go. But two cool drinks are also featured in the book, a strawberry mimosa and a Tokyo iced tea. Both of those recipes are on our website if you want to check them out. About Control, Omar. It's your first psychological thriller, I think, right? I read that somewhere that it's your first one in the foray into this genre. Why did you pick psychological thrillers?
Well, Stephen King has been writing psychological thrillers for a long time, and I actually wrote one. I called it horror. They actually call a lot of Stephen King's books horror, but they're psychological thrillers if you're really thinking about the mental aspect of what he writes about, with people having flakeouts. You know, they're always having mental things. So he's really writing psychological thrillers, but they call it horror. I did that too with a book called Leslie out of New Orleans. It came out in 2001, and I wrote about the stress of poverty. And of course, down there in New Orleans, they push voodoo really hard. And I had a character who was Black, Indian, and Haitian. So she had some real, voodoo ancestors in her culture. And so I dealt with that, but it was really about poverty and the stress of poverty in New Orleans. And I wrote that before Hurricane Katrina. So it was ironic when Hurricane Katrina hit, and we had so many people that were walking across the bridge that didn't have cars and couldn't get on buses and whatnot. It was crazy. But when I first wrote the book, people said, well, nobody wants to talk about poverty and, and Black racial issues and whatnot, because of course, when you're down in New Orleans, they have the light-skinned Creoles and you got the dark-skinned people in the 9th and the 7th Ward. And so nobody wanted to talk about that anymore. But now the kids are talking about colorism. They use this new word, colorism, when they're dealing with complexions and whatnot. And so I dealt with all of that in 2001. That was a psychological thriller, but I called it an urban horror. So psychological thriller and horror, if you're dealing with monsters and stuff, is real horror. But the way Stephen King writes horror, he's really writing about the fallout of the human mind. And so that's what I'm doing with this book, Control. It's the fallout of the human mind when we can't control what we.
All right, I guess we can come back to Omar in a bit. So okay, let's double back and
Yeah,
let's
stop talking.
let's get
Okay.
we'll double back. We'll come back. Let's go to
Okay.
Sam, and we're gonna have a couple of little excerpt from the book, and then I'll ask you a few more questions. But give us a little taste of it.
All right. This is just from chapter 1. Ethan Brand stood on his front porch, watching the coyote over the horizon of his coffee cup. The animal had run a few yards into the grass the instant he stepped outside, but now she was regaining her courage. Something hung from her mouth, large and an earthy red. If the kids had been staying with him, Ethan would have chased her off, but he was alone now, had been for several months. The animal's movements were tentative, a cautious intelligence behind every footfall. Her coat a beautiful ghostly yellow, reminding him of desert sand. The red something fell from her jaws to the front step, almost as if she were offering it back to him. Get going, he told her. The coyote didn't move. Don't you have someplace better to be? He took 2 steps, eyes not leaving the coyote, and bent for the object. Well, me neither. His free hand grasped something wet and rubbery, heavier than it looked, sized between a baseball and softball, and mostly intact. A heart, he realized. Examining it, he saw that the main blood vessels had been severed cleanly, by its heft too large to be human. How did an animal heart get to the front porch of his house? The one-floor structure was on a half-acre, the front yard overgrown since Jazz and the kids had left. No carcass on the lawn, nothing to clue him to where the organ had come from. Too heavy for the coyote to have carried any great distance. The animal licked its jaws and paced. What you might call an auspicious start to the day, Ethan said. He wasn't superstitious, didn't believe in signs. The world could turn violent or sweet, but it rarely told you which ahead of time. But of all the days to find something like this, a person more open to messages from the heavens might call it a bad omen. Turning back to the house, Ethan saw the note stuck to the door, chest height, hanging from a piece of gaffer's tape. Computer printed in block letters in one of the common fonts. Quit now. Leave. This is your last warning. Ethan Brand took a sip of coffee and read the note again. No signature. The paper was letter size and white, as common as what they used in the department's copy machine. The coyote had loped around to the side of the porch, its pale blue eyes tracking him. He'd never seen one with blue eyes before. You didn't happen to get a look at who did this? He asked the animal. No answer. Whoever had taped up the note had likely also placed the heart on his porch, an anonymous warning. His first day as chief of police hadn't even started, and already he was getting death threats. Thank you.
Wow.
All right.
So that's really wonderful. Ethan Brand is sort of this isolated character in this isolated place, which is sort of a theme that sort of runs through your work. Even the PI series that you sort of did. These are characters that are kind of outsiders, right? In outsider places. What about that appeals to you as a writer?
Well, I'm a shut-in. No, I mean, I think the pandemic had a little part of that, in that everybody was kind of isolated for a long time. But also, when I did go out, I would see more wildlife. Like coyotes were just coming up our street and in the public parks and stuff, and actually attacking people in the big park in Vancouver.
Mm.
So I just like that kind of combination of like somebody who's a little bit isolated and maybe a little bit wild himself, and then wildlife also interacting with that.
Was there any kind of sort of a transition for you? You write PI series, basically. I mean, I think I am of the opinion that PI writers are born, not made. And so we are sort of in the same sort of a thing. We write characters that are sort of color outside the lines. But Ethan Brand is a law enforcement officer, a chief of police in this small town. Was there transition for you in terms of writing the character?
Yeah, and of course nobody would know PI fiction better than you, but it I love writing private eye novels. Like I just love the voice and everything. But writing about a cop, it was a little bit different to write somebody who is part of a system and trying to work for its betterment from within. And having that small town, I think, was just a way to get close to that character, because you're part of this community where whatever crime is going on, every single person, the victims, the perpetrator, and these are also like probably your friends.
Mm. Mm. Um, so is this going to be the start of another series, hopefully, or is this a standalone that you are now sort of looking for a new idea for the next one, or where are we in the process?
I would love if this was the first of a series and it was wildly popular and I could retire to a desert island. I have no idea. I would love to just continue on with the character and writing about Blaine and Washington State, just because it's such a fascinating place to me.
Do you plot your things out, or are you an mad outliner like Kellye is, or are you a pantser like the rest of us?
Somewhere in between. I mean, I usually have a plan and then the plan goes wrong and I have to fix it and revise it.
Cool. We'll come back. Let's move on to Meg. Our excerpt from Shadow Heart.
All right.
Wonderful cover. Wonderful cover.
Thank you. This is the opening of chapter 1. May 2018, Spring River, Tennessee. Deputy Marius Hayes was standing behind the front desk at the sheriff's station, blowing on the night's 6th cup of coffee when he heard it. 4:42 a.m., a Wednesday sunrise heading his way, less than 2 hours left in his shift. The night had been dead quiet. That didn't spook Hayes because this was rural Tennessee, not Coast Province, Afghanistan. In Spring River, quiet wasn't eerie. Most nights were so still he could hear his hair grow. But Marius Hayes believed in watching out for the people in this town, and even on peaceful nights, malice didn't sleep. Trouble breathed in the dark. Violent abusers, meth traffickers, ghosts even, or so he thought when he'd had too much coffee and the fluorescent lights flickered. Beyond the windows, the drone of crickets and katydids filled the dark. The blare of a car horn shattered the calm. Outside, the station's motion-sensing floodlights lit up. Headlights crawled across the front windows. Hayes put down his mug and stepped from behind the desk. An old sedan was wallowing across the empty parking lot. The floodlights revealed it as a rusting Chevy Impala, faded blue. Listing to one side on soggy shocks, It veered toward the bollards that kept vehicles from ramming the station entrance. No, you don't, Hayes said. He holstered his duty weapon. The Chevy nosed into the bollards with a metallic crunch that stopped at dead, horn-raging headlights blasting the station doors. Hayes saw a man slumped over the wheel. Dark hair, white, head turned to the side. Possibly a drunk, maybe someone having a heart attack, but you never know. Hayes picked up the radio handset. All units. He alerted the deputies on patrol that he was responding to an incident at the station. Then he headed for the doors. The horn went silent. Hayes ducked away from the glass, putting the station's brick wall between himself and the doors. He raised his hand to block the glare of the headlights and peered out. The Chevy's door was open. The driver was staggering across the parking lot. Hayes pushed through the doors. Wait. The man didn't acknowledge him, just kept lurching toward the road. The sheriff's station sat on what passed for a main street in Spring River, a state highway along the railroad tracks dotted with stores, an auto wrecking yard, the Baptist church, and a Dairy Queen. The cool night was lit by the station's floods and the Chevy's headlights, and across the tracks, the red neon sign for the Flying T Motor Court. That was where the man was aiming himself. He looked to be in his 40s, 6'3", built like a heavyweight, shoulders thick beneath his dirty t-shirt. Sir, Hayes called out, stop. The man merely waved, raising a hand overhead, and kept walking. It's all yours. Not on my watch, Hayes thought. I'm not the parking valet. And this guy doesn't get out of a DUI by dropping off his car and heaving himself across the highway. Hayes raised his voice. Sir, halt. A man stumbled into the street. I don't have anything to do with it. The hairs on the back of Hayes's neck prickled. It? He turned toward the Chevy and shined a flashlight through the car's windows. He spun back toward the man. Stop. The guy continued shambling toward the motel. Hayes ran toward him. On the ground, hands behind your head. The night felt creepy crawly, full of flying bugs, the supernatural shrieking, their clicky buzz of fuse ready to set off an explosion. On the backseat of the Chevy lay a woman. She wore a peasant top and low-cut jeans and had tattoos that were growing indistinct against her skin because she'd been white but was now bloody, blue, and long past dead. Her eyes had clouded. Her hands, feet, and mouth were wrapped with duct tape. The driver zigzagged into the parking lot of the motel, a congregation of whitewashed 1950s cabins with red roofs, vacancy on the sign by the road, the office dark, all the cabins dark. Hayes ran toward him. Under the beam of his flashlight, he saw that the man was sweating profusely, breathing heavily. Hayes drew his taser. Now. The man walked a few more unsteady steps toward cabin 3. Then, swaying, he sank calmly to his knees. He raised his hands, his boxer shoulders rising, and laced his fingers haphazardly behind his head. Hayes cuffed him. The guy was glassy-eyed, reeking of whiskey. You're under arrest, Hayes said. The man looked up at him from beneath greasy hair. He struggled to focus. Then his eyes sharpened. His gaze swept up and down. Hayes tensed, thinking the guy might fight or trash talk, that a white man was reacting to the sight of a black deputy standing over him. But something swam in the man's eyes, slippery and sharp. This man was closely reading Hayes's distress. Spring River, Tennessee didn't get duct tape bodies in the back of big old Chevys. Not ever. The man seemed to find that amusing. His words came slowly. She ain't nothing to do with me. Hayes's eyebrows rose as far as they could go. He grabbed the man by the biceps to pull him to his feet. The man nodded at cabin 3. Them neither. Deputy Marius Hayes froze.
That's what I said. Creepy as heck. Which is why the Edgar is sitting on your bookshelf right behind you. I wanted to ask you about research. Now you're writing about serial killers. I mean, so you have to get into their mind. You have to figure out what makes them tick. What kind of research did you do and have you done for the Unsub series as a whole?
A lot of reading. I read a lot of, I'm certainly not going to go and interview serial killers, let's put it that way.
Why not?
That is as far away from anything a novelist needs or should want to do. But there are plenty of people who have dealt with killers who have written about it, and whether they're FBI agents, as the heroine in my novel is, or psychologists, or forensic neurologists. they write a lot and in detail about what makes somebody tick who has such a kind of mission or paraphilia or hobby of wanting to kill people. So and I spent a lot of time watching like reruns of Frasier and 30 Rock to get myself out of that headspace too.
But you have to sort of write them as regular, I mean, as normal characters. They don't know they're acting.
Precisely, you
Yeah,
do. And this is, yeah, serial killers haven't teleported into our plane of existence from some other universe. They're human beings, and they grew up in often weird but often normal families. They often have families. They often have regular jobs. They they're ushers at their church on the weekend. They take their kids to soccer practice, and they hide it all from their families. That's, Ted Bundy seemed to be the kind of guy that many parents would have been delighted to have their daughters bring over for Sunday dinner. So what fascinated me about all this is how so many people can wear a mask that fools the rest of society. What is it that they're doing? How is it that they are twisted psychologically but know how to manipulate everybody else's psychology? So that's probably one reason I'm fascinated with the work that Caitlin ends up doing in these books.
Well, what keeps Caitlin motivated to sort of track these monsters down, for want of a different label? I mean,
who else is going to do it?
I don't know. Somebody else.
Caitlin Hendricks is young. She's driven. She's the daughter of a homicide detective. So that, of course, colored her entire worldview growing up, that she was in the world of law enforcement. It seemed like a reasonable career choice that would have benefits and retirement and all of that. But she also grew up with a father who couldn't break his biggest case. The case broke him and ruined his life, ruined his family's life. So she's kind of wants to make up for that by trying to be the best investigator out there. And she really does feel sometimes too much that somebody has to take care of the public, and that bad people are out there. And if she's not willing to do it, then maybe they'll get away.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We'll come back after we come back around. Kellye, you're up.
Put my glasses.
You give us a little taste of
mine is
white woman.
such a different world than Sam and Meg's. All right. So this also is the first chapter. I was going to jail. I knew it. She knew it too. I could tell by the way she looked over at me, or rather didn't. We were the only two people on this block of fancy smancy row houses. A thin sliver of grass and a fence at half-mast separating the two of us. When she came through the wrought iron front gate, I was already feeling as lost as Dorothy in Oz and ready to give anything to snap my Asics together to get back to Maryland. So I was excited when I first heard the gate slam the next house over. I'd even smiled initially when I looked back at her, convinced her sudden appearance was a good thing, that finally there was someone who could help me, my Glenda. I couldn't see much of her, not at first with the sun being long gone and the darkness turning her into just a skinny blob. She didn't take human form until she passed through the remnants of the floodlight from the house on the other side. And even then, I couldn't make out more than a square inch of her face. Blame a face mask as red and sparkly as a pair of ruby slippers. But I didn't need to make out a nose, a pair of eyes, perfectly contoured cheekbones, blonde hair to tell she was pretty. The accessories filled in the blanks. Black jumpsuit, rose gold hardback suitcase, stilettos. She even somehow managed to not look ridiculous wearing sunglasses at night. She looked like she belonged there. Like she was the one taking a long weekend jaunt with her new boyfriend to a city she'd never been, with keyless door locks, four-story row houses, and unobstructed views of the Manhattan skyline. I, on the other hand, looked like someone standing in the dark outside a place I didn't belong, trying to get in without a key. It was exactly who I was and what I was doing. My outfit was wrong, Target. Suitcase was wrong, Amazon. Skin was wrong, brown. Hair, kinky and getting bigger by the second, was definitely wrong too. The most expensive things on me were my sneakers. She didn't look in my direction for more than a second, pulling her oversized purse closer to her, quickening her step up the stairs to her pitch black stoop, or whatever they called it in these fancy ass neighborhoods like this one. But a nanosecond was probably all she needed. Good thing I was already about to cry. Blame the damn door and my inability to get it open. I tried 3 times already. Put in the code Ty had given me. Hit the key button. Jiggle the knob like it needed some complicated handshake. I did it a 4th time, only to yield the same results. The only change, the new audience of one, looking like she wanted to boom me off the stage like this was the Apollo. I braved another glance over. I was quick, but she was quicker, turning her head away so fast the crystals on her mask looked like sparklers as they caught the light. She'd been watching the latest attempt. Even from a distance, even in the dark, I could make out the pale white manicured hands gripping her cell phone like the weapon it could be in these situations, at least for people who look like me. I pulled my own phone out, this one a lifeline. Ty picked up on the second ring. Be there in 15, he said. You're in the Uber? Not yet, but I will be, he said, packing up now. My phone said it was already 10:46. He'd sworn he'd pick me up from the train station, then sworn he'd meet me at the house. He'd been wrong on both counts. Oh, it was just a syllable. When I didn't even say that loud, yet he still heard it. Everything okay, Bree? I glanced over. She was still there, standing with the screen door open, pretending not to watch as she took her time going inside. Yeah. I wiped my eye as I spoke. It wasn't the first time I'd lied to him. It's the code. It doesn't work. Really, he said. It worked this morning when I checked in. 10:18? It's 10:19, I said. That was the one in the text, the one I plugged in 4 times. I'm pretty sure it's 10:18. Let me check. But I didn't wait for him to do it. Just tried the door again, but 10:18 this time. It buzzed practically before I hit the key button. The knob turned as he spoke again, realizing. I sent you the wrong code. It's fine, I said. Another lie. I glanced over, hoping to catch her watching me again, nodding as she realized she was wrong, that I wasn't some thief in the night, that I did belong here, that my boyfriend had given me the wrong code. But of course, she'd finally disappeared inside.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about Bree. Who is she? And what's a little bit of her backstory? Because the tension in this book is not only story tension, but it's societal tension that all people of color recognize automatically. And so you have all of these layers within this one novel, this one story for this one character. And just explain to us for a little bit briefly, how that came about, what work went into it. Was it stuff that you sort of researched, but probably didn't have to, or whether is it empirical information that we already knew in the back of your head, growing up in the country that we grew up in, and how all of that came together for this novel?
So Bree's backstory, she's a Black woman in her early 30s. And about 10 years ago, she was stopped by the police and wrongfully accused of having drugs in the car and was convicted of it. And I say in the book that her life has been on pause since then. You know, she still lives in the same studio apartment she lived in college, still has the same job. She never graduated. And this is kind of like the first time that she has kind of ventured out with this new boyfriend, finally dating, going, you know, on a romantic getaway. And so that's when we meet her. This is where she is. And since this is a story, it's called Missing White Woman because it's kind of a reference as a missing white woman syndrome. The idea that missing pretty blondes get a lot more attention when they go missing than Black and brown women do. And I wanted to kind of contrast that treatment of Janelle, who goes missing, with how society has treated Bree in the past, and kind of contrast that, while also kind of looking at the idea of we kind of like, we all know, we saw like the Gabby Petito case, even like OJ Simpson, like we treat people's misery as entertainment a lot in this country, right? And we never really think about, even with OJ Simpson, like we were making jokes when he died, but like two people died, their family was hurt, they were affected by it, you know. And so I kind of want to take the idea of this kind of missing woman who's been entertainment for the entire internet, and how that actually affects someone who's actually connected and gets caught up in this, her going missing and then being killed.
You also go really deeply into social media and the dangers of going viral, which is most people are looking for, or whatever. But there's a con side to that. I mean, once your life is out there, it's out there.
Yeah, I think so when I was writing this, Gabby Petito went missing, and like everyone else, I was glued to my computer, and I was finding a lot of information on TikTok. There were people who were posting about it several times a day. And the thing is, any theory they would post without actually realizing or thinking about if it was true. And I can remember there was a sighting of the boyfriend, and someone had recorded him and everything, and they put it on the internet, and it wasn't him. It was someone who kind of looked like him, but they didn't care. They just put it out, and then like, oh, it's not him, without thinking how they could have harmed that person. And that was a white guy. So I kind of wanted to kind of play with that idea of how social media and how we're all like, it's so easy to be behind make snap judgments based on likes and stuff, and how that can affect people. So.
Anything surprise you about what you learned about social media? And
I mean, I'm an expert in social media, Tracy. I spend
really?
hours on it. Yeah, hours. You know, and so I find it like I find it fascinating. Like all the stuff I said, like I was liking the OJ Simpson jokes, like the Bronco and the heavens. That was funny. Like, you know, so I'm also guilty of what I'm trying to talk about too, you know, and kind of taking a look at that. So yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll come back. Omar, you ready? Out in the woods, wherever you are. All right. You ready to read?
Yep, I got you.
That's good.
All right. Okay, so you're trying to figure out a way to cope with the frustrations of the music industry. I asked her. She seemed to be her angle with her first conversation with me. Yeah, that and some other things, she said. Family, friends, bills, lovers, you name it. Oh, heck no. The music is my sanctuary, she answered. I love making music. I'm just trying to get more out of it in the business side. You know, everything else is messing with me. So I'm trying to figure out, you know, if I need to sacrifice somebody to get ahead of something. That comment got a rise out of me. Excuse me? Who you need to sacrifice? Did you say sacrifice? She said it almost casually when she said it, as if she was talking like that normally. That was normal for her. Yeah, you know, you never heard of blood sacrifices and the Illuminati? She asked me. I paused. I wanted to be extra careful with my words and my advice with this young woman. If you've ever gone to college like I have, you've definitely heard of the Illuminati. We all talked about that, but I wouldn't take too much into that and take it too much to heart, because especially if you're talking about blood sacrifices and things like that, we didn't go to that level when we talked about, you know, the powers that be. We didn't go to that level. So you don't believe it? She asked me. What, in the Illuminati and sacrifices? Both. I didn't ask her a line of questions, and I didn't like where she was going with it, and I didn't want to go there at all. It was not my job to go there, but I still had to investigate her mind as a client. So I had to ask her some more questions. Is that what you talk about? Or is that what you wanted to talk about with me? Because I'm not an expert on any of that Illuminati and blood sacrifice stuff. If you want to see a tarot card reader, maybe you can see one of them and find out some other stuff. I joked to her. I was attempting to lighten up the mood. She smiled and said, I tried that before too. I tried a lot of different things and they just didn't work. So I'm thinking the blood sacrifice might be the real one for me. And what did you find out about it? She continued to smile like it was a joke. She said, I'm destined for greatness. All I need is this one sacrifice. She repeated that. And then I said, look, wait a minute. This is a little crazy. I was ready to end the session. I felt like I wanted to give her some advice against talking like that. Are you trying just to mess with me right now? Are you serious? I asked her. Oh, I'm dead serious. Pun intended, she responded. That was enough for me. I said, all right, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable now. I can't have you in here talking about blood sacrifices. Are you crazy? You can't do that. What's wrong with you? I mean, I know it's crazy, but you know, I'm not playing games anymore. I just want to be successful. I mean, her demeanor was crazy and it unnerved me. talking about sacrificing people. This girl was crazy. I said, well, I hope you don't think about doing something like that. And I'm not going to condone anything like that. Why would you even tell me something like this? I figured you could help me. Yeah, help you not to do it. But I'm not going to tell you anything that's crazy and positive about something like sacrificing people and whatnot. I was appalled. I sat there and stared at her across my desk for a minute. I asked myself, what would she say if I commented about going to the police with this? What is she thinking about? I'm not even getting involved in this kind of craziness. She said, I'm just really trying to be successful and take my career to the next level. I said, not by committing murder. And then she paused and thought about it. A blood sacrifice isn't really necessarily murder. You could just prey on somebody else dying. I cringed. And you think that would be fine? Are you fine with that? She paused again. She said, people die every day. I asked myself, Lord, what have we gotten ourselves into? So we got a young lady that's trying to figure out whatever she can. And these kids talk about this blood sacrifice thing now. Like, you know, of course, I went to college and they talked about the powers that be, the secret society, the Illuminati. But we weren't talking about blood sacrifices and what people do to be successful. We didn't add that to it. So they didn't took it to another level. But that's a part of people wanting to control whatever they can control that they feel they don't have control over.
So what came first, the character of Dr. Benning, or this theme of control and how you wanted to sort of, I guess, play around with it? Story first or character first?
Well, you know, for the most part, she has to understand where they're coming from first. And, you know, as a human, you're not going to just advise them on a professional level. You're going to provide them on a human level and advise her, you know, as a black woman to a younger black woman. So she has her doctor stuff and then she has a regular stuff, which are interchangeable because you're trying to help out a real person, not just a client. And she sees that this person is getting way off track. And so that happens a lot in this book where you got personal views and you got professional views and they get mixed up because we're all human. And then when you hear somebody saying something that's off, you want to give them a human perspective and a professional perspective. And Dr. Benning does that with these 6 main characters that are all off their rocker and all ready to do something crazy.
But it devolves into murder, right? I mean, so it's mental health, sort of pinging on the mental health, but also somebody's a homicidal maniac. I mean, so how did that come about?
Well, you know, that's one person with the whole blood sacrifice, commit murders. But, you know, other people think about it. We all think about it. We don't do it. But we think about it. You know, if this person really ticks you off or somebody really irritates you, you think about it, but you don't go there, you know, because you have control. We have to control ourselves. Everybody has a conscience, and your conscience says, hey, don't do that. Control yourself. But when you start thinking about things and having more control, and we were talking about what serial killers earlier, they lack control. They get out of control and they do things that should have control over. And so, yeah, with Dr. Benning, she has a lot of different clients, 6 clients that's specific in this book. She had more than that, but she focuses on the 6, and she tells us all the details of their visits and stuff, which you're not supposed to do. But she does it because it's a book. So we have to understand who she's dealing with and why they're off their marker. So she does that, telling us all the information about these characters, but it's in a book. So you have to do that so you know what they're going through and how she's trying to help them.
All right. Sounds good. That's it. I'm gonna open up to see if we have any questions, Chris, to see if we can field any. And then we'll sort of end with our giveaway. Each one of our authors has graciously offered a signed book for our readers. So we have the names of the 4 registrants who we've chosen from our list. And we'll see if we have any questions for anybody. And if not, I'll tuck in with a few more questions because I can do this all night. So we'll see. Let's see if I can find any.
We don't have any questions.
No questions?
And not at this point. But I have a question. Well, I wanted to comment on Meg's reading. I was fascinated by it, and the thing that came to my head is Kathleen Ramsland did the BK killer, and she did that book about him, and she got real close to him. And at the Writers Police Academy conference, she had a drawing that he had done that she auctioned off, And and somebody paid, I can't remember who it was. It was a big name author, Tammy Hogue, I think, actually paid $1,600 for it and was going to hang it in her office. And all I could think is, would you want the energy of a serial killer's drawing of the crime scene on your office wall? I was,
I would burn my house down.
I couldn't, I was like, we were all like, we didn't even want to be in the room with it. It was creepy. But
I hope the auction money went to some extraordinarily deserving cause.
I think it goes to helping aspiring writers who want scholarships and things to go to the Writers Police Academy, but which is a really cool conference. If you've never been, it's kind of hands-on. You can do simulation and things like shooting in the simulator, and you have to shoot the kid or shoot the suspect or shoot, you never know who you're gonna come against, and it's interesting anyway. But and I had a question for all of you, because it kind of goes to what Tracy was asking about what motivates you to write. I think what she was asking Omar was whether he thought about writing the character and then came up with the stories, or if he thought about he wanted to write about the story of these people going crazy and then fit characters to make it work. And you all write with different tones. Like Kellye's is kind of more humorous all the way through, but it's a very serious topic. So how do you come at it, all of you? Do you come at it from story or character? Omar or Nolan,
yeah.
do you want to answer first? No, or Sam?
Just depends on the project. With the series that I write, the Wakeland novels, it's really the city that comes first. I mean, they're about Vancouver and some of the social issues that go on there. That really informs the books, like gentrification and some of the substance abuse issues. But with A Lonesome Place for Dying, I wanted to write a really pure mystery, like a small town mystery in the vein of Louise Penny and Craig Johnson and those kind of writers. So this is like the least angsty I've ever worked. It was just pure fun, and I mean, I loved it, but it definitely changed the process a little bit.
Yeah, I think when I write books, I start with the topic first, and then to create characters that fit. Or if I'm writing specifically about a character, then I'll create the world that I want to create around that character. But I'm more of a journalistic writer, so I always come up with the topics first. And control right now, a lot of celebrities and people who are not celebrities, they get in a lot of trouble.
Right.
Kellye?
How about you?
Because they lack control because of things they want to do, and that happens more in America because we believe it. Yeah. So I always do the subject first and then come back to the character, unless I'm starting from the character with a character but typically I write journalistically. What's the topic? Then I create the characters that fit that topic.
Thank you. How about you, Kellye?
I usually, for me, it's a hook, like for Missing a White Woman, I was literally at a friend's house doing a writer's retreat in Baltimore, and I was by myself in her row house, and I had the idea of like I could go downstairs tomorrow, find a dead body. I have no idea how it got there, and her neighbors would be like, "Who are you? Why'd you kill somebody?" So that was kind of the idea, and then from there, I kind of figured out the most interesting character to put in that situation.
Yeah. My first two series, I definitely started with the characters. The characters came to me, Evan Delaney and Joe Beckett, who's a forensic psychologist who does forensic autopsies. And my more recent books have been, the stories have called to me, just like Kellye said, the hook. It's what's gonna just grab me, what keeps me up at night if I keep thinking about the idea. And then I think, okay, there's this story now who's in it, who's the one that is going to affect the most, who's going to have to try to turn things around. And that's the fun then of spinning the whole thing together.
Thank you. Kellye, Sue Henkin is on Facebook and wants to know if you're going to do any more Hollywood industry books.
I feel bad because my publisher closed when I was writing the third one, and people still message me asking for it because it's on the internet and I can't get it down. I don't think right now I will be doing any more day books. But I do think, because I talked to my editor today about like my next idea, and I think it's always going to have an entertainment element to it. So, but hopefully one day I can go back to day. So.
And everyone, the big comments are for all the authors that the books all are amazing, and they love the reading and the glimpse into the book from your voices. So thank you for your readings. They were very, very good. And I think that's it. Tracy, I'll hand it back to
Tracy,
you.
you were amazing. Thank you, Tracy.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, thanks, guys. All right.
Oh,
Thanks.
now
Yeah.
now I can sleep. I was sweating the whole thing for like a week.
Right.
I'm good. All right, so I put the giveaway winners in the chat, but I'll read them off to you for those who are not on there. The winner of Kellye's book is Louisa C. Adela S has won Omar's book.
All right. All right.
Ivana K has won Sam's. And Sandra W has won Meg's. So I put roguewomenwriters.com in the chat there. So email us, give us your pertinent information, and we'll make sure that you get your book right away. And next month, Rogue Reads will return, and our authors for that event will be Delia Pitts, who is joining us here tonight, Robin Geigel, Stuart Turton, and Peter Kirsanow. So that's next month on the 10th of June. So we hope you return and join us again. And I want to thank our authors
All right,
again
guys.
for joining us. It's been a pleasure hosting you and reading about your work. And I wish you all the luck going forward.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you,
Thanks, guys.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Got it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Have a night.